And we are back with another episode of the Baseline Bums podcast. I am your host, Rob, aka B-Ball Archives, and I am with my boy, Adam.
Hey, man. Good to be back. Excited to be here.
Oh, yeah. We got some amazing topics today. We're going to dive in and talk about the best version of LeBron and how we rank the various versions of Bron. We're also going to segue right into the GOAT talk and talk about, who's the greatest of all time and what makes it that way, just a little bit of details behind that. And then we're going to get into an amazing topic where we're talking about defenders with 3+ defensive player of the years and who are we taking as our rim protector. So we got some big names on that list. They did a lot in terms of defensive presence, so I'm excited to talk about that. And then a little Spurs chat. We're going to be talking about Jeremy Sochan and is he worth that 9th pick? So I have a Baylor alum, Spurs fan right here, so he's the perfect guy to ask this question to.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to get to that topic. We'll say that at the end for all you loyal Spurs fans listening. So I'm definitely excited to talk about Sochan. As you can see, I'm repping his jersey for the episode. So, hey, I'm pumped. Just got this
clean.
Just got this jersey.
Yeah, it looks clean.
So I didn't have it whenever I was at Baylor.
Oh yeah, where'd you get that jersey?
I just got it online.
Nice.
I can't even remember what website
Nice.
I got it. But I like the gold and black. So
that's what's up.
yeah,
Looking clean, my friend.
Excited to talk that one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that'll be towards the end of the episode. Right now, we're gonna get a little into LeBron chat. So, we're talking best versions of LeBron. Obviously, he's been elite for such a long time, but there's been versions of him that are better than others.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I'm curious to get your take on which version of this man do you feel like is the most elite?
Yeah, I mean, to your credit, he's been so good for so long. Like, you could argue his second year in the league, certainly his third, that he's been the best player in basketball since then, maybe next to Kobe. Kobe probably, since he's been in.
Yeah.
So it's tough because he's been elite for so long. But if I had to pinpoint two versions, but ultimately the best, I would say his Heat era, LeBron. He was an athletic freak since he went into the league. He always showed his flashes of being able to pass, more than flashes. He was a great passer.
Yeah.
He was a good defender. He could do everything, but the biggest thing that kept him back from succeeding and ultimately winning a championship with Cleveland the first time around was his inability to shoot from three. And I think you really saw that highlighted in, like the 2007 finals.
And his lack of supporting cast.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Zydrunas Ilgauskas was his second best player.
And Mo Williams, you're not going to win if that's your big three.
I agree, right? So, supporting cast is a big deal. But you saw in the way the Spurs defended him in that series, they dared him to shoot, and he just wasn't as good of a shooter at that time to be able to take advantage of it. Versus you go to 2012, 2013 Miami. I think in 2012 it was the only year in his career he shot over 40% from three.
He shot 40.6%, and he also shot over 56% from the field that
Correct.
year. That was his most efficient shooting season of all.
So I think playing with Bosh and Wade obviously helped his efficiency, but so maybe he was getting some more open looks from three, but overall those were his most efficient years. He was still at the peak in terms of his athleticism, and I thought he just put his game together the most. He obviously won 2 championships there.
Yeah.
The second best version, I would say, would be his second stint in Cleveland.
Oh, yeah, Cleveland 2.0, without a doubt. He was, that's LeBron coming home, winning a championship with a team that was pretty solid, but honestly, without LeBron, they are absolute trash. That team would have been horrible. So, like, I look at that championship, and that is the championship to me that put him into that top tier level conversation.
Well, they got Kyrie.
Yeah,
right.
He was
a number 1 overall pick. They were still shit after they got him to the point where, remember, they were still in the position to get Wiggins, and then they ended up trading Wiggins to get Love. Right.
Yeah.
So they were still trash. They obviously traded for Love to get there. So yeah, to your credit, LeBron took that team, and I think that was easily his most impressive championship. You expected him to win them in Miami.
Exactly.
I think there's some question marks over his LA one. Obviously, it was in the bubble. Home court advantage was taken away from certain teams. So that wasn't like a true, even though I still count it fully.
Of course, you have to.
Everyone had equal slots, and everyone had equal advantage.
It was difficult for everyone.
Right, they were all equal. That Cleveland championship was for me easily the biggest. So I'd say Miami LeBron, and then second stint with Cleveland LeBron.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. Just looking at the numbers, he just played a little bit less efficient whenever he was in Cleveland. He just shot a little bit worse. I think the supporting cast in Miami allowed him to play at maximum efficiency, and he was able to focus on taking the best shots and able to distribute and was able to just be open more.
Right.
Because he had, Bosch and Wade to suck that defense away.
He could play off ball with Wade more.
Yeah,
obviously.
Absolutely. So I definitely agree. Heat, LeBron, and then I got Cleveland 2.0, and then after that I'm probably going to go. I think I got.
This is where it gets interesting.
I got to go Lakers, Bron.
Because some people talk about how LeBron was playing the best basketball of his career whenever the Lakers won their championship 3 years ago. And I think that, 2-3 years ago you could say that, but if you look at last year LeBron and the year before that LeBron, even the LeBron whenever he had Kuzma on his squad, I remember a specific clip where LeBron basically was sagging in a lane 2 passes away on help defense, and Kuzma literally had to shove him out to go guard a guy at the 3-point line. I think as LeBron's had more miles put in those legs, you've seen his half-court off-ball defense really suffer.
Yeah.
He still makes those chase back blocks offside.
No, you're right.
But I just think, I feel like as a guy like yourself who's played basketball religiously since he was 5 years old, your knees took a beating, and ultimately you get to a point where you have so much mileage on your legs that it's hard to keep going.
Right.
And I think sometimes you just take those plays off defensively, and I see him doing that more. Having said that, I still might have Laker LeBron ahead of early Cleveland LeBron, just because we can look back at it now and it's so impressive that he's doing it so late, and he at least has a championship with this go around.
Yeah.
So that's tough.
It's gonna be a staple that defines his longevity, that really separates him from everyone else, and that's why I do have the Lakers LeBron. He's been really good. The championship's there, the numbers are there. I'm seeing a lot of what you're seeing in terms of just lackluster defense, and and he does have those spectacular blocks every now and then, but he takes plays off and he does relax every now and then, but
it's hard
I still don't fully hate that as long as he's putting up 38 and 8. You can take plays
insane.
off as long as you're putting up those numbers.
And he needs help.
In my opinion,
he needs help.
Yeah,
that roster outside of Anthony Davis. I'm sorry, like we were talking about last week. I don't think Russell has it anymore. I think he's washed up, unfortunately. And again, that's nothing to discredit him.
I don't think he's washed. He had a bad season, dude. He's not that removed away from playing MVP level basketball.
I just don't think whenever he's on the court at this stage of his career, the team's benefiting. I think he has to have the ball in his hands to have the type of influence on a game that he needs to be productive. I don't think he's willing or capable of accepting a lesser role. If he can improve his three-point shot, I'll completely change it, because currently it's completely altering how teams are able to guard him. And I think going back to LeBron and the GOAT, like what version of him is the best, I think his existence is going to keep LeBron from competing for a championship again. And I almost, if we'll talk about it later, the GOAT talk, but in order for him to pass MJ, I think he needs at least one more to even, because I currently have MJ above him.
Yeah, well, we both have MJ above him, but I think that there's really things that are, I personally believe that LeBron, there's really nothing he can do for the rest of his career to pass MJ.
That's where you're at.
I firmly believe that.
Do you think there's nothing he can do, or you just don't find it feasible that what it would take to pass MJ he can even accomplish?
Well, what I believe is that you can't undo things. There's already things that I have seen within LeBron that he was just never able to just stay somewhere and have people build around him like the way that so many other players have done. And to me, that is a slight knock on him. I know he's the most gifted athlete the NBA has ever seen. The numbers he has put up, the longevity he has is absolutely ridiculous. But there is a knock on him for that, and there's not a knock on MJ in that same way. And I know it's not.
Couldn't agree. Unfortunately, I couldn't agree more, and that's a huge talking point for me.
Yeah.
And we just spoke about it earlier. We're talking about best version of LeBron. They didn't build around him in Cleveland. They didn't give him. They didn't give him what he needed his first go round to succeed.
Right.
Having said that, you can't undo history, like you said. And MJ, excluding his last year, excluding his time in Washington, which doesn't really count. He was in Chicago the entire time.
Yeah.
He was able to get drafted there, and I think staying with one team over the course of your career and winning there is so important, which is why you look at Steph Curry. Obviously, he's in a great situation. He had players drafted around him that are helping him be
You can say
who
the
he
same thing
is.
about Giannis.
Yeah, I mean, certain guys just get lucky, and they get
Yeah.
drafted into great situations, and they work their ass off, and they become GOATs. You know, LeBron, they didn't build around him in Cleveland. But, like, it impacts how you weigh their championships. It impacts how you look at them in all time. Like, you look at Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah.
He won once, but I view that championship so highly because he stayed in Dallas his whole career, balled out against a great Heat team. And so, like, I view him as a top 15 player, more or less right next to Hakeem.
Right.
Because he only got one.
Oh,
but
not near Hakeem.
I have him near Hakeem. I have Hakeem higher, but yeah, we'll go into that later. But
I'm high on Hakeem. I have Hakeem in my top 10.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, 'cause I value skill more than a lot of other people do when they rank players.
I'm interested to see what all-time greats disrespected to get Hakeem into your top 10. So I'm interested to get in this conversation.
Well, I mean, I don't have to get all crazy about it. I just value his ability and what he did more than Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. I think that his skill is crazy. There's a reason why he's still teaching people footwork today.
There's a reason why he made Shaq look like he was skating at certain times early.
Right. Because,
no, I mean,
his skill translates.
Right. I guess
no matter what era you're in.
So, like, whenever you're looking at GOAT talk and I'm looking at all-time rankings, I just put a huge emphasis on championships. Not like I would have.
I do as well.
Right. Not like I'd have like Derek Fisher or Robert Horry, like anywhere near an all-time great list. But
right.
Whenever you're looking at like the difference between Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant, which is a huge one for me, right?
Yeah.
I have Tim higher because I think in those 3 championships of Tim's, his first 3 versus Kobe's first 3,
right?
3 finals MVPs versus Kobe had none. So it's like both of them are top 10 in my all-time list.
Yeah.
But like his are valued more because his championships and he was a bigger part of those first few. So I think whenever you look at the all-time debate, that's just the fashion in which MJ won his championships. He was always in Chicago. He never lost in the finals.
Yes.
It's just so hard. And I feel like for you and I, that's like the nostalgia, right? Like we grew up and all we knew was that Michael Jordan was the best basketball player alive.
That's all anyone ever knew. And in my opinion, that still is the truth today. I mean, I look at how MJ dominated, and you see things like, he was the like first team all defense, like leading the NBA in steals while still being the scoring champ.
He was defensive player of the year, I think, once.
Yeah.
He was all NBA first team. So he was an incredible 2-way
10-time
player.
scoring title, and people tout Wilt Chamberlain as being the GOAT scorer. He only did it 7 times in a much easier NBA.
Right.
And MJ's just doing it 10 times. And people call Kevin Durant the greatest scorer of all time. He's done it 4 times. So I think, there's a lot of reasons why you can point to MJ as the GOAT, but I think the only reason why LeBron will never be the GOAT is just because he wasn't able to succeed
in Cleveland the first time.
Yeah, he wasn't able to succeed within that first 7-year stint in Cleveland. It was like 7, 8 years.
And I mean, it took Michael a long time to ultimately win a championship, but he did it for Chicago.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you something.
He did it and Michael broke his ankle 2nd year in the league. So
True.
that for me that year was kind of a wash, and he had to kind of restart.
So let's say LeBron, hypothetically, which I don't think is going to happen. I agree with you that LeBron will never pass Michael, but let's play devil's advocate. Let's say he wins 2 more championships in LA.
Yeah, so essentially what I'm saying is, like, even if LeBron wins 4 more rings, 4 more MVPs, I still don't think the GOAT conversation really changes. I still think MJ would be my GOAT, and LeBron would be in a situation where I wouldn't mind if he was being called the GOAT, but I still don't think he would be my GOAT. There's still holes in that argument for him.
I mean, it's tough because we're talking about like a hypothetical scenario, right?
Yeah.
Which I pose, like, I don't think LeBron's going to get another championship, personally. I think...
Really? You don't think LeBron gets a championship for the rest of his career?
No, I don't. I don't at all. I think that this upcoming year, unless they are able to move on from this Westbrook situation, I think it's going to be a wasted year. He's going to be 1 year older, and I don't know if he's going to be able to remain with LA. So if he's able to remain with LA, Anthony Davis gets better, they're able to build around him maybe, but I just don't envision it happening. Now, obviously, I posed the hypothetical if he were to win 3 or 4 more, right? If he were to win 2 more, he matches MJ. So, like, I've always
in
viewed
championships.
It,
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And again, like, whenever I'm talking GOAT, I put a heavy emphasis and heavy weight on championships. So, like, in my mind, there's really nobody that has more than 6. Obviously, Bill Russell has 11, which is why I still have him 5th overall.
John Havlicek has 8. He hooped out.
Yeah.
He had he was over 20 points a game for a really long time and had a lot of success and has 8 rings. So
right, but nobody has him top 10. And like I'm not
he's in my top 10 small forwards.
Yeah, but he's like a top 50 player of all time. But nowhere is he ever near the GOAT talk, right? But like
right.
But like I have Bill Russell 5th.
That's too high. R.I.P. to the GOAT, but 5th all time. That's pretty high.
So like whenever I'm talking GOAT, right? Whenever he was playing, yes, the overall like level of basketball was lower. There wasn't the same level of athleticism. I'm a big believer in like microevolution, where everyone gets bigger, faster, stronger, and you've just seen basketball continue to grow as a game, right? So I do think every new generation is better than the last. But whenever I'm thinking GOAT, I've got to treat all eras equally because they were playing against all they could. You couldn't go find better competition for Bill Russell because it didn't exist in the entire world at the time. So, like, I have to give equal weight to that era, to MJ's era. Now, I don't have him first, right?
Yeah.
But because I don't think he was the same level of basketball player. But it's enough to me to say, hey, he dominated that era. I'm going to have him 5th. Now, MJ and LeBron's era is a lot closer, right? Like, they didn't really play against each other, but...
Right.
Because they weren't in each other's prime at the same time. But they're obviously back-to-back, so it's easier to be able to compare them, right? And I think that if LeBron were to get to 7 somehow and somehow find a way to win 3 more, I'd be comfortable passing LeBron. But I just don't.
You would mean
passing MJ. I apologize. Yeah, I think if he gets 3 more and he gets to 7 and he's able to remain the kind of player that he is, or even at like 85% of what he is, like he puts up 24, 4, and 5, and he's still efficient, but someone comes along and maybe he's the Robin, I'd still be comfortable putting him above MJ if he got to 7. But that's 3 more, and it's just not going to happen.
I mean, I'm totally cool with that as well. I still think if he has 7 championships, there's a gap defensively. There's the fact that LeBron didn't win on his own. He had to go seek a championship on another squad that had an established superstar.
Correct.
And then there's also the fact that LeBron has, it's the only time where your longevity actually hurts you. It's when you have a longer time to accomplish things. People are like, well, you had more chances. MJ did more in less time. And so like I almost take that into consideration as well. But there's 2 sides to every coin. I feel like, there's...
And one thing we haven't talked about, it's like, it's not just that LeBron left. It's that he left and joined, outside of maybe Boston. Boston was like a super team, kind of, but
they were past their prime.
Pierce, yeah, I don't think Paul Pierce was. KG was.
KG
was in Ray Allen, where Paul Pierce was still in his prime, I think.
Or Paul Pierce, I guess it was like the end of his prime, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he still balled out again. I mean,
I'd
say prime. His finals appearance against the Lakers, he was prime.
But I'm just not that high on Paul
like,
Pierce.
The Heat were like the first like 2 players from free teams paired up as free agents and just like took the league by storm. And I think if he had joined like a random team that didn't have those level of superstars on them and was able to win 2 or 3 there, then maybe it'd be closer. But it almost discounts it even more and furthers MJ being the GOAT.
Yeah.
Because he had to join a super team to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
The
Of
Cleveland
course.
championship was huge.
Yeah.
He needed it so badly to even be number 2, really.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, no, that's what catapulted him into that GOAT conversation with me, and you know it's, you know, and I just don't, I guess I don't weigh championships as much as you do in that way, because there's people that have, you know, more championships than MJ, and even if they were to have similar championships, like let's use Tim Duncan for instance. Like if Tim Duncan was to win 7 rings, let's say he wins 7 rings, and like I wouldn't put him above MJ.
Yeah, I mean it's so tough to think about it, because like what if
Right.
what it took for
It's
him,
all hypothetical.
What if what it took for him to get 7 eliminated 2 of the Lakers, and the Lakers stayed together in that core, and Tim Duncan was just shitting on him with the Spurs? Like, does that, imagine erasing that from history? It's still tough because
I wouldn't erase it from history. It would, I mean,
I'm saying, like, imagine they physically, like, in order
Yeah.
for Tim to get to 7, it erased a couple of those Lakers championships. It would have completely rewritten history of the 2000s of basketball.
oh, of course.
And imagine Duncan dominating in that area even to a more degree. Maybe the argument's close between him and MJ at that point, but it's tough to say.
Yeah, that's why I think there's so many little nuances to the GOAT debate, and in top tens, even yeah, when you talk about top tens, it can be kind of tricky in how you rank things in terms of skill, in terms of accolades,
Yeah.
and championships. And
Do you
all.
think any current players can enter the top 5, top 3 GOAT debate? Let's say, do you think anyone can pass Kareem?
I don't.
What would it take? And who is it?
I mean, yeah. For the first one that comes to mind is Giannis. I think that Giannis has done a lot on the offensive end and the defensive end to really solidify himself on both sides of the ball as a guy that can be that dude, and the fact that he elevates his play whenever the moment's big. Like he had, you know, friggin' massive Game 6 in Milwaukee, and
So you have Giannis.
well, I'm not saying that, because at the end of the day, what if Steph Curry wins 3 more championships?
That's what I was going to ask.
And then and you know, because he's already the best shooter of all time, he revolutionized the game in the past decade plus. He's absolutely changed the way the game is played.
He has 2 MVPs. Giannis has 2 MVPs.
Right, but my only knock on him is he doesn't play on the defensive side of the ball. He will finish his career with no all defensive teams.
Yeah.
And so that, to me, it kind of just says, at no point in time were you elite on that side of the ball in terms of being top, you know, 3, 4, 5 guys at your position in the NBA.
Yeah. No, yeah, he'll never win defensive accolades. He doesn't get embarrassed out there. I mean, Steph Curry.
He does get targeted sometimes.
He's small. If he can get in
He
switches
does.
with bigger men, they'll take advantage of him on the block.
Yes.
And Kyrie Irving kind of exposed him in that Cavs championship a little bit defensively.
Yeah.
I thought, but yeah, you could certainly say that his lack of defense will keep him from being able to pass Kareem. But we'll see. He's only 34. He's still.
He's
The
got
Warriors are the favorites to win the championship next year, or the Bucks? So it's like that would get him to 5, right? What if he can get to 6, 7? I think if he were able to get to 6 or 7, you certainly could make a strong argument for him being 3rd.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I look at it this way. Like I think about the players that he would have to pass, and like I have Curry 10th all time.
It's crazy the guys he's already passed, too.
Right. It's crazy the ones he's already passed, but like, I mean, I could see him getting to 9th. I could see him, because I have Hakeem at 9th.
If he wins 2 more championships and he gets to 5, who's higher, him or Tim Duncan?
Oh, Tim Duncan, easily. Tim
Really?
Duncan plays the defensive side of the
Okay.
ball.
Hey.
I value defense more than a lot of other people do in their top rankings. Like, I think if you are a guy that people can target and say, oh yeah, that dude couldn't guard me that game, like, to me, that is a noticeable flaw in your game. And I'm not to knock anything else about it, but to me, I'm going to value somebody else who's producing at the same level but doesn't have that flaw.
So Magic Johnson only made 1 defensive all-team in his entire career, I think.
He didn't make any, actually, but...
I thought he made one. I could be wrong. I thought he was one time, not first team, but I thought he was one time he made a defensive team. I could be wrong.
Right. Well, I'll have to look that up. I don't
Can
remember.
he pass Magic?
Well, see, that's my thing, is I have Magic ahead of him for different reasons.
Okay,
like,
what's that?
I think Magic had... Magic was the best version of the point guard of his time, and I think that Curry, while he is the best version of the point guard for what we're seeing right now, I think Magic Johnson did a better version of it.
It was more of a traditional point guard, but he also was untraditional because of his size and
right.
Yeah,
and so like I think it's
like Damian Lillard's like a 2.0 almost of Curry, like a slightly lesser version.
Yeah.
Who could you compare to Magic point guard wise in that era, or even any year before? There really wasn't much.
I mean, the only person you could compare him to is LeBron.
It is funny that you say that. It's
is a point forward like LeBron, like a big 6'9" guy who's running down the court, distributing, getting rebounds, and is really just doing what you need to do to win. But just Magic didn't need to score like that,
It's funny how just categorizing positions has changed over time too, because you could look at how LeBron played his game in his early career. He brought the ball up a ton.
Yeah,
you could have called him a point guard for his first stint with Cleveland, or even some in Miami, but nobody ever did. Like what was it? Mario Chalmers was the point guard in Miami. Like he wasn't a point guard,
right?
Like he was he could shoot.
Yeah, he was an off-ball shooting guard.
Dwayne Wade and LeBron were the 2 point guards on that team. But it's just funny how the positions have changed.
Right, and I got into an argument with some people because I said the NBA is essentially positionless now. There's 2 positions. There's the combo guard, and then there's the athletic forward. And
I think there's like a combo guard, a wing, and a big.
No.
You don't even think so?
There's no wing. That person can be the forward too, because we're seeing KD, we're seeing Giannis. Like, are these guys not playing power forward? Like, these guys are playing power forward. They're dominating out on the wing. They're able to slash. They're able to do everything from.
Yeah, I mean, KD's starting offenses as a 6'11" guy, and he's also guarding your power forward sometimes. So, yeah. No, I mean, you're right. To a certain point, there's 2 positions, but that's minimalizing it some.
I'm oversimplifying it a lot, but
Correct.
like I'm just saying that you can go out there with a team of 2 guys that are 6'5", that are combo guards, that decent distributing, they can hit threes, and then 3 other guys that are anywhere from 6'8" to 6'10", and that are athletes and that can slash and can play D, and then you'll be successful.
The Warriors kind of did it first, right?
Right. Well, it's not like the NBA, 20 years ago where you needed to have a legit 7-footer and somebody who was staying down low and really needed to command that paint.
Isn't it funny how it used to be controversial almost putting Draymond at the 4? Now it's we're so used to him playing the 5.
Yeah.
And that's been in 7 years.
Now it's we don't even bat an eye when we see PJ Tucker guarding a 5.
Right.
We're he's my height.
There's not many Shaqs or even DeMarcus Cousins anymore that are just.
Our biggest defensive feared big man is Rudy Gobert.
Grant Williams is guarding Giannis.
Yeah.
Look at that
Grant
size
Williams,
difference.
Yeah.
Grant Williams was the 4 for them a lot. Yeah, no, you're right. It's substantially more positionless. So, but yeah, MJ GOAT.
Yeah.
LeBron number 2. He never will pass him. I think he could. You don't think he ever can.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't think anyone will come along that can anytime soon either.
Yeah, we haven't seen this player yet. If they're gonna pass MJ or LeBron, we haven't seen this guy play.
But we might see him on the Spurs with the first pick of the 2023 NBA draft.
Yeah, maybe Victor will be that guy. But
hopefully he'll be this guy.
But yeah, we will. We're gonna shift gears a little bit and get into some all-time defender talk. So there's 4 guys in NBA history that have over 3 Defensive Player of the Years. We're talking Ben Wallace, Mutombo, Dwight Howard, and Rudy Gobert. And we're gonna talk about which one would we rather have on our team protecting the rim and just being our defensive anchor. So I'm going to let Adam take this one. So when we're talking about these players, who are you liking the most?
This is a tough one. I feel like in a lot of these all-time great arguments, you could make a case for any candidate to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
For me, there's one defender that kind of stands out from the others, and to me, that's Ben Wallace. For one, the Pistons, he propelled the Pistons to being one of the all-time best defenses in the NBA, right? He was the defensive anchor on a team known for defense. Whenever they won the championship in 2004, you couldn't even really say who their best player was. Maybe Billups was their leader, Rip Hamilton, Tayshaun. They were a very well-balanced team that was built on defense.
Sheed was nice,
Sheed was nice. They were just a very well-balanced team, but they were built in their identity on defense, right?
Yeah.
And Ben Wallace was clearly the best defender on that team. All of them were shot blockers. Every guy you listed was a shot blocker, was known for blocking shots. But I feel like Ben Wallace had the ability to step away from the basket and switch and do a little bit more in an era where there was no defensive 3 seconds. So you compare it to a guy like Dikembe Mutombo, who's arguably the best shot blocker in the history of the NBA. So you look at a guy like him, and how would he have fared in an era where you can't stand in the paint, where you're guarding guys that step away from the basket? Now, I don't know that the bigs in Ben Wallace's era were fully at that point, but he could step out and guard Dirk and bother him, versus are you wanting to bring Mutombo, Dwight Howard, Rudy Gobert? Like, you've already seen Rudy Gobert getting exposed in pick and roll situations.
He does from time to time. He does get exposed.
Within the last, maybe not 3 years ago, but within the last year, I've heard of teams literally pinpointing, bringing him away from the basket to capitalize on his inability to guard. And I eliminate him. I think if I was going to go with anybody besides Ben Wallace, it wouldn't be Gobert. I'm interested to see who you have as the GOAT out of that topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up a lot of really great stuff about Ben Wallace. He is an absolute juggernaut defender. Only being 6'9" and being the rim protecting force that he was, dude, absolute legend. Out of these guys, and talking about rim protection and just defensive presence in general, I'm going Mutombo.
Okay.
I think that when you're talking about like guys who traditionally just block and who are efficient blockers, he's the only guy on this list that had seasons where he averaged over 4 blocks a game. There was a stretch for 3 years where he averaged over 4 blocks. None of the other guys on this even did that for one season. Most of the guys on this list were usually around 1 less block a game. So Mutombo just had a nose for the ball in terms of knowing where to be in those around the rim situations. So I think I gotta go Mutombo. But at the end of the day, you can make a case for each and every one of these guys. How they impacted their teams defensively was immense.
Yeah.
So I mean,
to your point, I also feel like Mutombo played in an era of basketball where the center was the most dominant position.
Right.
Like, and you saw that bleed over all the way to look at Greg Oden was taken above KD. Would that ever happen now? No. So
no.
I feel like Mutombo is having to guard Shaq. He had to guard Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon. I think that was probably the era of the greatest. David Robinson.
There was a lot of great bigs.
Disrespectful that I left him off the list.
You're all good, man.
But yeah, I think Mutombo had to guard bigger centers and the best centers in the history of the NBA. So yeah, I think he's a good candidate, and I think you can make a strong argument for either, like we just did.
Yeah. Yeah, either way you slice it, guys, those are some great defenders.
So I'd like to, in the comments, leave us what y'all think about that.
Yeah, whether we're full of shit or we're speaking some truth over here, let us know. We are going to keep on trucking, and we're going to get into a topic that I like a lot. There are multiple teams that have not been to the NBA Finals, and those teams are the Hornets, the Nuggets, Clippers, Grizzlies, T-Wolves, and Pelicans. Some of these teams are really exciting. They have some really good young cores and some guys that do a little bit of everything. So I'm just going to dive into this topic. And I know this sounds really weird, but out of this list of teams, I think the T-Wolves are the most likely to make it to the finals.
Okay. I think they were probably second to last on my list, so I am going to let you go first. I'm very interested to see
Absolutely.
the Timberwolves.
We'll go ahead and listen. I think that they have an absolutely budding superstar in Anthony Edwards that they can easily build around. I think that when you're looking at him and what he brings to the table, it can be a situation like D Wade used to be in Miami, where you just have that explosive guard that can just do everything, and I think that he can get to the point where he can lead you to a championship. And
I love Edwards.
And same here. I'm super, super high on him. And I think that if Cat doesn't have to be the best player on the team, that's when he's going to be at his best. Okay. If he can shoot, if he can rebound. Now that the fact that they have Gobert, he does not have to be the main defensive anchor. He can spend more time away from the basket, more energy on the offensive end, really just kind of doing what he loves to do, and that's shoot.
Like he's not having to guard like Joel Embiid next time around and get punked by him.
No, he's not having to do any of that. And so what I think is we're going to see more efficient offense from him. I mean, obviously Gobert is going to be able to be their defensive anchor. Boom, you get 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Gobert. And so I think that and that's a good 3-person core right there. I think obviously they're going to have to stagger minutes between Cat and Gobert.
So you think they're going to be able to gel? Because the way I look at it is they're going to have to do it in this next 2 to 3 years. They're going to have to get to the finals within the next 3 years. Unless Anthony Edwards is able to stay for a long time and is committed to that organization, the window of capitalizing on Gobert with him would have to be done in the next 2 to 3 years, I would think.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I think we're going to see one of these teams in the finals in the next handful of years, and I think that I don't know why it couldn't be the Wolves sneaking in there, because I also look at a guy that they have that was pretty efficient last year, and that was D'Angelo Russell. He was putting up 12 and 6 and pretty much being that good guard to just kind of come in there, provide a little offense when you need, distribute enough to kind of keep the offense moving. And when I look at that 4, I think that that's something special. And even though they got rid of their kind of their defensive anchor of Patrick Beverley, they got a defensive anchor that's 10 times better. Yeah. And so, to me, I think that this is going to be a good situation for them from a lot of different perspectives.
I mean, they're going all in, right?
Yeah.
They're all in. So I think if they can get Anthony Edwards to stay, and part of my selection is based on which superstar I think is committed to the organization the longest. Because I think it's so tough, any of these teams, outside of maybe Memphis, I think is on the cusp of making it like next year.
Yeah.
I think Memphis, if I had to pick, hey, one of these teams is going to be in the finals next year, who would it be? I would maybe say Memphis, just because they're, the number 2 team in the West this year, right?
So you think Memphis is going to make it to the finals?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think Memphis is going to get it done. And I don't think Ja Morant is in Memphis. He might extend one more time, but I don't think he's committed.
So wait, hold on. Let me get this straight. You think Ja Morant's going to leave Memphis soon?
No, at some point, though. I think he might sign an extension. He might wait and sign an extension. But I think that if they don't find success early after his next extension, he's not going to stay. No one's set out and I'm committed to staying in Memphis for the rest of my career. You just don't see it. I think that if he doesn't find success, he's going to leave. I'm not saying he's not loyal right now. Whenever I look at a player that I think is going to be most loyal, that isn't going to care to be in the flashy area, I think is Nikola Jokic. So I'm picking Denver. And I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think Nikola Jokic will be on that franchise for long enough, and I think he's second best player in the NBA to where at some point he's going to have the longevity to be able to make the finals. The only team that I see that could do it in the next 2 years that would maybe go in front of them for me would be the Clippers. I think they might be, outside of the Grizzlies, the most ready to do it in the next year or two.
Yeah, I agree.
If Kawhi can return to form, if Paul George stays healthy.
A lot of health ifs on that team, especially now that they have John Wall. Another big if.
We'll see how he does with them. So, health is going to be a big thing for the Clippers. But I think the Clippers and Memphis have the best chance to maybe make the finals in the next couple of years. Just don't think either of them are going to get it done. And I think that Jokic is 10-year. I think he's going to be in Denver a long time. And I think at some point they're going to make it, and I just don't think any of the teams are. I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, these teams have never made it before, so saying that they will make it, all of these are a little bit of hot takes. So
I mean,
you got to keep that in perspective.
It's funny that we're even talking about the Clippers as a team that can make it. Imagine when we're growing up saying the Clippers are going to make the finals.
I mean, we were talking about the Clippers being playoff contenders back in the day, back in Lob City, whenever it was Chris Paul, Blake Griffin,
sure.
DeAndre Jordan being
But
that
like
defensive
before
anchor.
them.
I mean, abysmal. Absolutely abysmal franchise, just a black hole.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of talent on these teams, a lot to be excited for. Like I think one of these teams on this list, the Pelicans, they have a lot of like question marks when you're talking about Zion. When you talk about C.J. McCollum, Brandon Ingram, like there's a lot to be.
That's a team that we didn't talk about that. I feel like you've got to be excited about. C.J. McCollum came in and didn't skip a beat. Looked like he elevated his game, leaving Portland, took his game to the next level.
Was very comfortable being away from Dame and producing a lot.
And as soon as Brandon Ingram got there, he's been obviously substantially better than what he was in L.A. He really grew into his play.
Yeah, he's been KD light.
He's been great.
Yeah.
He's been great. And,
Yeah.
and if Zion can stay healthy, obviously he just signed the extension. So unless he comes out and requests a trade, he's acting like he's committed to the franchise. So that's a great core. They also have Herbert Jones, who's a solid rookie, great defender. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to be excited about that roster. You do. What about, a team that I'd have towards the bottom of that discussion would be the Hornets.
Yeah,
I think
same.
A lot of uncertainty with Bridges right now. He had a great year.
You got to throw him out of the conversation
he's not going to be on the team, is he?
No, I don't think so.
And LaMelo, LaMelo probably doesn't want to be.
I mean, I see he wants the spotlight more. I could see him wanting to be in LA, wanting to be in New York, wanting to be somewhere where the light shines bright, and LaMelo Ball just isn't seeing those lights in Charlotte.
No, so I don't see him committed. I don't see them winning now, and I don't see him committed to the franchise for the long.
No.
He hasn't done anything to indicate that. It's just kind of how the NBA works whenever stars are in cities that aren't exactly marketable.
Yeah, I mean, we are fans of San Antonio, so we know this information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for staying.
Yep, he's the GOAT.
Orlando never had you.
Yeah.
We don't want Jason Kidd.
Yeah, I loved that whole bit whenever Tim Duncan was going to leave, and then Orlando was making shirts, and yeah, I mean, I saw T-Mac on a panel recently, and someone brought that up, and it was because T-Mac was on the Magic at the time, and he had said like, "Oh, I was so excited to get Tim Duncan," and then he's like, and then it felt like the rug got pulled out from under me, and I was like, I'm glad you didn't get him though. I'm glad you didn't. Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, either way you slice it, a lot of these teams have a lot of good young players to get excited about. So who knows if they'll end up making the finals? We don't know.
This conversation could look completely different in a year.
Yeah, that's one of the fun things to look back on. Okay, but we will segue into our last topic. And as a Spurs fan, I've been wondering this question for quite a while since the draft happened. You are the perfect person to ask this question to. You are a longtime Spurs fan. You are a Baylor alum.
Yep.
We're talking about Jeremy Sochan here. We took him with the 9th overall pick. Why should we be excited about this guy? What is his upside? What can we expect from him?
It's crazy. This is the highest pick the Spurs have had since Tim Duncan in 1997. I don't think we're obviously expecting anything like that, but I love Sochan. I probably watched 90-95% of Baylor games this year, so I got to see him early. It's crazy because Sochan was a 4-star recruit coming out of college. He had offers from some super really big schools. So, he was a good prospect, but he was on 247 Sports ranked outside the top 100 prospects coming into college. However, it was really easy to see early on that he was a better NBA prospect than Kendall Brown, who was projected to go to lottery out of Baylor. So it was super easy to see early on that Sochan was the best 4 on that team. And that was on a team with Matt Meyer, who started over him, who is now playing for Illinois as one of the best college basketball players. So it was super early that I could tell that he was going to be a special player. Now, the Spurs taking him at 9, I like it a lot. I think that from a positional standpoint, he comes in and kind of gives us exactly what we need in today's game, which is a stretch four that can help be a defensive anchor for us. So the one thing I will say is that I think he's got like the moxie and the personality to really give us an identity. And I think in a rebuild, he's going to come in and he's going to be a leader for the team. So I like the intangibles about him, but I also love his defensive game. I think he's you could tell he's been really well coached. He played for the Polish national team. He's just been exposed to a lot of competition. You can tell he's been super well coached throughout his whole life. He rotates incredibly well defensively. He can step away from the basket and shoot, although his numbers weren't great. I just think he's a guy that you haven't seen the best of him because he went to a Baylor team where there was a senior that he had to sit behind. If he had come in, and I just don't think coming off a national championship, Scott Drew wanted to start a true freshman over a guy who started for a national championship team. So I think if he had gone to a different team where he could have had bigger numbers, some Spurs fans would be more excited about him, but I love it. The one thing I will say is I don't think he'll ever be a Batman in the NBA. I don't think he's capable of being a Batman on a championship team. But I look at him as like a great comparison to like a Draymond Green that could be an all-time great defender that'll give your team an identity.
You're that high on his defense?
I really am.
You would compare Jeremy Sochan to Draymond Green?
In the way that they play the game, that you can see when they're two passes away from somebody, they're already rotating. They get proactive in pick and roll situations. And I think you see that with a lot with Draymond Green. He's not always blocking every shot. He's not getting a bunch of steals, but he's always in the right spot. And he can be like a linebacker, almost like a Tyrann Mathieu, how he came into the NFL, just like gave that. He like brought the energy that gave them like an identity defensively. I think it's some Draymond Green, and I'm really excited about him. We need to get him a Batman because I don't think he'll be that guy that averages 20, 25 in the NBA, but he could be a 15-year veteran and just be a great player for a long, long time.
Wow, those are bold words. You think Jeremy Sochan could be a 15-year veteran?
I think he'll play for a long time.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. I mean, I didn't get to watch Baylor play too much. I want to say I only watched y'all in the tournament, and from what I did see, he looked good. You know, you got to love his size, his length. He's not like too skinny, so he's going to be able to step in there and body some people. You could tell that he was very willing to distribute. That it didn't come unnaturally for him to pass people. He could even pass people open, and so that you there was a lot to like about his game. I just feel like what we saw was a little bit, or what I saw in the brief time I watched him was a little bit of unpolished offense. And so like
so one thing that he does is that he is not an incredible athlete.
Yeah,
he's a good athlete, but he's not blowing by smaller, quick defenders. So what he does is he kind of gets to his spot and he likes to spin back. Which, funny story, maybe before conference play, like a little fanboy, I guess you could say, I messaged Jeremy Sochan a month or two before he was ever popping on draft boards, and I said, hey, really like your game. Don't understand why you're not being talked about to go to the NBA. I think you could benefit from watching some Boris Diaw tape. You could study how whenever he spins, he keeps his dribble and how he's able to do with it. So it was really interesting when the Spurs drafted him. I'm like, that's funny. They drafted Diaw. I think he could learn a lot from Diaw because Diaw would drive to a spot and then back down. So like he would get to a spot to create. And I think that if Sochan can keep his dribble, but I agree, he's not a super polished offensive player yet, but I do think he can shoot.
Yeah,
he's a passer, and I think whenever you, like, if you were to go back and watch his tournament game against UNC, he was a part of the main energy that fueled our comeback. You could see how physical he was, how he didn't back down, how he's uber competitive, and like that's what I love.
Yeah,
like he is super competitive. You can even hear clips of him talking shit to Ty Washington in Summer League or throwing flames at Westbrook, like. Yeah. Not that I like want him doing that all the time, but like he's got that moxie that it like gets me excited.
Yeah.
So I'm a fanboy. That's why I got his jersey. I'm excited to see what he can do for us.
Well, dang, that's those are some bold words. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take your words over mine because you watched him play a lot more. So if you're high on Sochan, then you know what? I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt until I see otherwise. And so yeah, that's No, that's good to
I
hear.
I don't know who else we would have taken. Like, it's so tough. Like, you could look at Terry. We brought in Terry Eason, who's a really good defender, plays small forward, power forward from LSU, but he's a full 24 months older than Sochan.
Right.
He's 2 years older, and there was also Johnny Davis.
Yeah.
Out of Wisconsin. We brought him for a couple workouts, but I think he would have been more of the same of what we have. They would have taken away minutes from our younger guys like Primo for them to be able to develop this.
We need to take a risk on a potential high-end X Factor player, and that's
and I loved it.
That can be Sochan. So
hopefully you Spurs fans will see a lot of what I'm seeing. If you don't have a lot of exposure to him, hopefully he's able to bring, and would have loved to see him play in Summer League, but I'm pumped about him. I really am.
Well, that's excellent to hear. Well, yeah, that's great to hear about Jeremy Sochan. So that feels good.
Yeah.
That feels like a good episode.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for stopping by and checking out the Baseline Bums podcast. I am your host, Rob, aka B-Ball Archives, and I am with my boy Adam.
Yeah, guys, please give the page a follow on TikTok, and also check out Rob's page, B-Ball Archives. So,
oh yeah,
Baseline Bums podcast, B-Ball Archives. Give us a follow, guys.
Absolutely. Go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs, go.